Faith to say, okay, I'm going to trust this being and follow this being out of Egypt. I'm going to leave the darkness, and I'm going to travel into the light. I'm going to leave the very broken world that I'm in, and I'm going to go to a new world. The plagues allowed them to appreciate their blessings. Now, in our own lives today, sometimes we need, hopefully a much lesser version of them, but we need some bad situations. We need some bad relationships. We need some bad experiences. We need those things to hit a button inside of us and to get us to wake up. We often hate the fact that we've got these bad experiences in our lives, whether we're going through them right now, whether they were 15 years ago or just last week. Sometimes we're ashamed of all of those things that we carry with us. The fact is, those of us who have those things, those of us who have the pain associated with them, I want you to think of them, and I know this is hard, almost as gifts. Suffering, the suffering that we go through, and sometimes complete shattering of who and what we are, the darkness that comes with illness or depression or with loss, the pits that we're tossed into by others or ones that we throw ourselves into, the struggles that we experience in life, the wrestling matches, Jacob wrestling in the desert, and our ability to survive these things, to get through them, that's incredible. And I want to suggest that many of us get to a deeper level in our lives because of this suffering, because of the turmoil, because of the trials, and we learn to appreciate our blessings. We discover deeper meaning in our lives. We become less self-centered, and we realize that there's a bigger power out there because we learn to have faith in something beyond ourselves. Those who we might say are lucky enough not to struggle, those people who are lucky enough not to have any scars, those are the same Israelites that maybe never saw or witnessed the plagues. Those are what Joseph would be like if he had never climbed out of the pit and became a leader. Those people who you know in your life who have never gone through a struggle, never seem to have had any obstacles in their life, they're the same as Moses would have been if he had run away from Pharaoh's home and never had returned. These are people who haven't discovered their own incredible godly strength to survive, to climb out of pits, to struggle, to wrestle. These are people who haven't had the blessing that allows them to experience faith. And in some ways, those people with no scars, and I was one of those kids for a while. I have a wonderful mother, but I didn't fall down and cut myself until I was about 6 years old, because she protected my every move. It was like pillows all around. And I remember when I fell, because I skinned my knee and I was bleeding, and it was like the worst thing in the world. And as silly as that sounds, the fact is there are some adults who have never had an adult-like experience where, not that they're going to fall and skin their knee, but they've never had a rough time. And so many of us envy them. And what I'm saying is, don't envy them. Because in some ways, they're stuck in the dark. Nothing's ever shattered, and if you look at Judaism, Judaism says if nothing's shattered, they're not going to see the light. Now, you're going to excuse me for a second, because there is a country western song that, to me, captures what our tradition has to say about the idea of suffering. Suffering is a blessing in Judaism. Suffering is what living is all about. Now, you know, if you haven't, I'm a huge country western fan, and this is a song by Garth Brooks. It's called Standing Outside the Fire. I'm not going to sing it. I'm just going to read you these words because I've always been touched by them. We call them cool, those hearts that have no scars to show, the ones that never do let go and risk the tables being turned. We call them fools who have to dance within the flames, who chance the sorrow and the shame that always comes with getting burned. But you have to be tough when consumed by desire, because it's not enough just to stand outside the fire. We call them strong, those who can face this world alone, who seem to get by on their own, and those who will never take the fall. But we call them weak, who are unable to resist the slightest chance that love might exist, and for that forsake it all. They're so hell-bent on giving, walking a wire, convinced it's not living if you stand outside the fire. Standing outside the fire, life is not tried if it's just merely survived, if you're standing outside the fire. Our message in our Torah, Jewish mysticism, throughout our Judaism, is that our job is not simply to survive life. Our job is to be like Jacob, to be a child of Israel, grab life and wrestle with it and struggle with it and dislocate that hip bone and get the scars, because that's the only way that we're going to discover the light that comes after we find the courage and the strength and the faith that we need to ride out the darkness.